on today's show, a bucket list guest. So let's get into it. Welcome to the 222 Paranormal Podcast Video Series. I am your host, Joe. Jen will be with us in just a minute, but before we get going, I want to talk about our guest. Tim Dennis is a guest that I've wanted on the show for a long time. We've talked to him many, many times, and it's one of them deals where we keep seeing him at shows. We're like, gotta be on the show. He's like, let's do it, all that kind of thing. But we finally have Tim. So if you don't know who Tim is, Tim takes his listeners on an entertaining journey into all aspects of the supernatural, from ghosts, aliens, monsters, mysteries, and myths and legends, with experts, experiencers, and eyewitnesses. With 16 years of experience, Tim continues to be your guide to the encounters that seem just on the outside of the limits of normal life and just past the boundaries of the darkness on the edge of town. So, Jen, let's introduce Tim.
Yep. And with us today, we have a very, very special guest on the 22 Paranormal. And on the show today, we have a very special guest on the 222 Paranormal Podcast, a long-awaited Mr. Tim Dennis. Thank you, sir. Blessings to you. Thank you.
A legend.
For coming on. We have been trying this for 9 years to get you on the show.
I'm not that hard to get. Come on.
Oh, that's not what I heard. No.
Wow.
Hello.
There we
not
go.
that kind of show. No, but we have seen you at many conventions, and we've always tried to just connect and get you on the show because we just admire you so much, and we just think you're one of the godfathers of doing what we do here with paranormal podcasting, and we're just really blessed to have you on the show today.
Well, thank you. There's only one godfather. That's John Zaffis. So there you go.
Oh, Johnny. Mr. Zappis.
You are now the podfather.
Oh,
there we go.
I thought the podfather was Conrad over there.
No, I thought it was Adam. Like Adam Carolla always says he's the podfather, but I don't think so. I think you are, Tim. I've been on the air since 2009, so I think you have everybody beat.
2006.
2006. Oh, yeah. I got it wrote down wrong.
Yeah. No, January 1st, 2006. And actually, that's just podcasting. The radio career goes way back. So.
Tell me
us
you
about
didn't
your
do
first. What? Joseph is talking over me.
Oh,
again.
sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Jen, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us, what got you, and for our listeners, what made you interested in the paranormal to begin with?
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, there's a combination of things. So I think we all watched In Search Of. I mean, we all loved Leonard Nimoy. So that was probably the very first inklings of things. Watching the credits and the fact that Mr. Spock had something other than the Starship Enterprise to keep him busy. Those were the beginning inklings of that. But then I had my own little experiences that, my mom was always into the 70s fringe stuff. So she was highly into ESP and things like that. So, the fact that I knew who was calling on the telephone before she picked up the phone, things like that. She always would. I always considered it psychic Munchausen's, right? She would say to me, "Oh, maybe if he has ESP, that type of deal." And I whatever. I didn't want to hear it, right? I just wanted to be a normal kid, go out, play football and baseball and have fun, right? I didn't really want to hear about things like that. That wasn't my gig, right? But then it wasn't until I was a little bit older. I want to say I don't remember if I was 10 or 11 when my grandpa Ernie passed away, but that was when I tell the story. I've told it quite a bit on Darkness Radio, where when my great grandfather passed away, and we were about as close as you can be to a great grandparent. Okay. So it was my grandmother's father. And he had cancer of the jaw. So he actually had his lower jaw removed, which used to scare the crap out of my sister because he would keep a tissue shoved in his mouth to stop himself from drooling. He was embarrassed about that.
Yeah.
But it also made it hard for him to communicate. So he kind of communicated in grunts and growls and just pointed, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I understood what he meant. But the thing he loved more than anything in the world was playing cribbage. So he and I played a lot of cribbage. And so that made it us particularly close. So he was sick, and I knew he was sick. I knew he had cancer, and it wasn't going away. I mean, he had his stops and starts, and it went into remission and came back. I didn't know at this time as a kid, they were pretty good about keeping things away from me, that it had come back. So I go to bed one night and I have this dream. My grandmother's on one side of Grandpa Ernie's bed. Her sister, my great aunt, is on the other side of his bed. And they're both holding one hand. One's holding this hand, the other's holding this hand. And my grandmother's telling him, it's okay. It's okay, Dad. If it's okay to go, you can go. You've lived a long life. You've lived a hard life. It's been a difficult one, but you can go. We love you very much. And they're taking turns and they're sad and they're kissing him. And I'm like, what am I looking at? And I know I'm on the ceiling and I'm looking down and I'm seeing this happen. And I thought, this is a weird place for me to be, right? Because when you're a kid, you're like, it's kind of cool, but this is kind of weird, right? But then all of a sudden I see him die. And I'm like, oh shit, did I do that? Like, did I kill him being up here? Is my being here what made him die? Which scared the hell out of me. And I trucked it out of there and I woke up. Well, when I woke up, I was so scared, I ran into my parents' room and I dive in between my parents. And you have to realize at this point, my dad worked in the I guess you would say now it's the IT industry. At that point, it wasn't the IT industry. He actually worked with the huge mainframe computers, the ones with the big tapes and all that. And he actually wrote computer programs before you would write code, things like that. And worked for a company called Controlled Data, which some people may have heard of, others haven't. And he had a phone near his bed, which most people didn't have at that point. Most people didn't have a phone at their bedside, but he did because he'd get called at all times of the night in order to come in. He was a project manager. So I dove in between the two of them and I woke my dad up and I said, Dad, you got to wake up. Grandpa Trombley died. And he kind of, comes out of his slumber and says, well, no, honey, Grandpa didn't die. He's in the hospital. He's sick, but he didn't die. I said, no, he died. I saw it. He died. And my mom's kind of looking at me like, where'd you see him die? I said, I had a dream he died. I was there. And he goes, no. He didn't die. It was just a dream. Here, just lay down, go back to sleep. Well, it's morning, right? And I mean, I'm not going to get much sleep. I mean, cartoons are on. It was Saturday morning. It was a Friday night, Saturday morning. So I could go in the living room and go watch TV if I really was being obnoxious. So at this point, I'm really, really being insistent and want to talk about it. My dad doesn't want to talk about it. My mom's kind of curious and the phone rings. It's only been about 4 or 5 minutes in my little mind.
Okay.
My dad picks it up. It's my grandmother saying, honey, I know it's early. I'm sorry, but I was at the hospital all night with your grandfather and he passed away. Then my grandmother starts to describe everything I had described in the dream. And my dad's just, his face falls and goes, Timmy, go in the other room and turn on the TV and go pour yourself some cereal. Well, I start to cry at this point, and my mom starts to celebrate because, my baby has EST. It's a great moment for her. It's not her grandpa.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And I'm devastated because I think I killed my grandfather. And that was that. And
Wow.
so I'm, eating Fruity Pebbles and crying and watching cartoons, and I'm thinking, never again. This is bullshit. Pardon my language. That was. But then it did kind of intrigue me, the entire thing. But I just didn't. I liked it, but let's keep it here, right?
Yeah.
Let's keep it at an arm's length because it's kind of scary stuff, right?
Sure. Yeah.
But then watching
Especially when you're that age.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, I grew up in a Catholic family. So you grow up in a Catholic family, and it's a funeral every 3 months. It's
Right?
a
wedding and a funeral of a cousin, right?
right. So you do a funeral every 3 months. Seeing a dead body is no big deal. It's and plus I was an altar boy, so I
Yeah.
I was at church every Saturday and Sunday, anyways. It was not that big of a deal. So I got my share of it, and I got my fill of it. On top of it, when you grow up Catholic, you're kind of told that sort of a gift is not a cool thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. It's frowned upon back in that time.
Yeah.
Being, we grew up the same way. So definitely it was you were out there. Don't talk about that.
Right. It's not a real.
To this day, we still get that. I mean, to this day, people, whenever we say we do a paranormal podcast, they're like, "Oh, I don't believe in that. I'm a Christian," or "I don't believe in that. I'm Catholic." It's like, but it's the same thing. You just call it different things,
Right.
Yeah. How did the prophets talk to God? They didn't send, carrier pigeons. Didn't work that way.
No.
The furthest
And
that I
that when Jesus passed away and rose and then came back to the disciples, they said he came back as a ghost. They did not recognize him when he came back.
Yeah.
And but we get that a lot. I totally understand where you're coming from when you say that, because we grew up in the same thing, or we grew up in a very Catholic family.
Yeah. So it was a little disturbing, a little bit of a conundrum, right? You had to tiptoe softly, and you had to be quiet, and know when to be quiet about certain things, and know that you had an interest. But I also had cousins that were interested in it, and I also had family members that were interested in it. And believe it or not, I mean, even my grandmother had an experience that she told me about a little bit later in life, where she had a sister, my Aunt Joanne, who passed away, and she had an experience where Joanne came back to her, and she claims that this had happened as she was waking up, or she was kind of asleep but yet on the verge of being awake, and Joanne appeared at the foot of her bed as a full body apparition and wiggled her toes. She used to wiggle her toes to wake her up when they were kids. And she, Joanne died of a sudden heart attack, like a massive heart attack, right? Well, Joanne shows up, wiggles her toes, and says, "Susie, wake up. Come on, wake up." There she is.
That's
and
crazy.
she appeared to her not as she was when she was younger. She appeared to her a little bit older. So,
yeah, and I hear that a lot, where people appear to other people, like someone that gets hit by a car, get run over by a car. They're not going to appear to them the way that they looked when they passed away. They always look the way that they were at their best, or their healthiest, or their happiest.
Yeah.
It kind of makes you think, well, do the spirits revert to that, to where is their happiest time? And now that they're on the other side, they are happy, and they are living the life, quote in quotes,
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you've talked to people about near-death experiences and all that, and 99% of them always say the same things, where they go and it's so much love and happiness and brightness, and the colors are so vibrant and all that where they go. I mean, sure, you got the ones that do go to a darker place, or one of the big ones is where they talk about in India. It's kind of like the show Beetlejuice, where they go into an office and that, but 90% of them, it seems like it's always happy on the other side.
I had a friend recently. I don't want to betray any trust here, but I had a
Mhm.
friend recently who contacted me from another country. I wouldn't even say the country because that may
Yeah.
even be too specific.
Mhm.
Who had her daughter had been contacted by her grandfather, who's on the other
Okay.
side and has been on the
Mhm.
other side for 10 years. Okay, so this isn't a near-death experience. This is a death experience.
Yeah.
He somehow broke through the veil,
Mhm.
and when he died, was an atheist. Now, this to me sounded
Okay.
exactly like if you've ever heard John E.L. Tenney's near-death experience, which is
Oh,
absolutely
yeah.
where he talks about going into a void. He can't touch anything. He can't sense anything. He's all by himself. It's just black. There's
Mhm.
nothing but darkness. This man, when he passed, believed in nothing,
Okay.
went into nothing,
Hmm.
and somehow breaks through to his granddaughter and says, "Help me."
Oh, wow.
And he says, I'm in a place that's dark. There's nobody around. It's just me.
Hmm.
There's nothing. I somehow managed to reach through to you. Now, it also happens that this man was a musician when he was alive.
Okay.
And after, I'm just skipping ahead a little bit here in the story.
Mhm.
The day after she has this dream, she hears his song on the radio in the country she's in.
Uh-huh. Yep.
It's kind of an enigma type song where it's got kind of a lot of chanting and synthesizers and stuff. The main line in the song says, "Save my soul,"
Okay.
over and over and over again.
Mhm.
She herself is an atheist. She asks her mother, "What do I do? I
Uh-huh.
don't believe in this. I don't, what am I supposed to do? Why does he reach out to me? What am I supposed to do?" And she says, "Well, I happen to know somebody who I can talk to who might know."
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
So we're talking, myself and this young lady. I said, "So what does grandfather say to you?" She said, "Well, he said, it's dark, it's cold, it's lonely, and there's someone standing near us that says, don't agitate him because he's going to have to go back." I said, "Is your grandmother still alive?" And she said, "Yeah, she's still alive." I said, "So there's nobody on the other side that can call to him and pull him forward, pull him into the what we would consider
Oh,
a
yeah.
heavenly realm, a lighter realm, that, you know, that tunnel
Mhm.
that you see when you go and have that near-death experience or that death experience. There's nobody that can bring him up to a higher plane." She
Okay.
said, "No." I said, "Does he have like an animal or anything like that that he loves?" Right? Anything that will pull his vibration higher.
Mhm.
Oh, he loves animals. He has lots of animals that he absolutely loves. I said, "Does he an animal?" She said, "Yes." She gives me the name of this animal. I said, "Perfect." I said, "Here's what you
Mhm.
need to do." I said, "Your grandfather will come back to you at least one more time. He's desperate." Think about this. If you're stuck in this realm where there's nothing,
Yeah.
he managed to build up enough energy to get to you once, break through, make contact with you. He'll do it again.
Mhm.
Okay. It may take him a while. It took him 10 years. So one thing she kept saying is, he kept looking at me and saying, "I can't believe you're this old. How old is your sister?"
Oh,
He said
wow.
he could barely remember my sister, but he remembered her.
Yeah.
And he said, "I can't believe you're this old. It's been 10 years." He said, "It feels like I've been there for 100 years."
Oh, wow. I was
That
thinking just
time,
the opposite.
yeah, that time had felt like it had
Mhm.
crawled by in this place. He said, "How old is your mother now?" And he kept asking these questions because it felt like he had been tortured being in this place.
Wow.
Okay.
Gosh.
So to make a long story longer, I said, grandfather will come back. When he comes back, I'm going to tell you, you're going to have to do something that's going to be the hardest thing you'll ever have to do, being an atheist. You're going to have to convince him the way out is to have faith.
Yeah.
He has to have faith.
Mhm.
And you have to have faith, and you have to sell it like you're selling a gold brick back to Fort Knox. And essentially, it's a lesson for both of you.
Yeah.
Because you know the old story in the Bible about Jesus going down to hell, right?
Mhm.
And pulling souls out of hell. Well, there's your faith.
Yeah,
Who do you think is
exactly.
going to pull your grandfather out of that place? And not like I'm
Mhm.
trying to Bible beat anybody here, but somebody or
Right.
something, some positive powers got to pull your grandfather out of there. And this is what I said to this girl. I said, don't you think? And I said, here's the deal. I said, there's a universal white light that will show up in any place. This portal, that one
Mhm.
that you hear about, that near-death experience, that white light,
Mhm.
that tunnel. If
Yeah.
your grandfather has faith, if he has enough faith, that light will open up. And when it opens up,
Yeah.
that's his
Gotta
cue.
run.
And he has to
Yeah.
have faith that animal that he loves so much will be on that
Mhm.
other side.
Yeah. Believe
And
enough that there's going to be someone there to agree him.
that's right. And when he
Mhm.
sees it, go.
Yeah.
So
And he'll be
interesting.
free.
Yeah. It's amazing, and you don't think about that. Like we grew up Catholic, we know about purgatory, and that is almost kind of, I guess, like a story of purgatory where it's in between.
I don't know,
You
You're in
can
limbo.
choose. Yeah,
or is
I
it?
I keep
Or is
saying,
it? Because my own grandfather told me about when he had his open heart surgery, told me, Timmy, I think I was in limbo. And I said, how do you know it's limbo, Grandpa? He said, because I was given 2 jobs. He said, I was in
Mhm.
a land where there was unlimited rabbits. And he said, my job was to feed the rabbits, but my other job,
Oh,
they kept pooping all over the place. I had to clean up the shit and I had to feed the rabbits. And he goes, and that's what I did until I woke up. And I was so, pardon my language, but this is what he said. He said, I was so
Yeah.
goddamn frustrated, I wanted to scream.
Huh.
And I said, this was my mother's father. And I said, that was your job, Grandpa? And he said, yeah. And he said, I wanted to scream. And I said, well, how do you know that was purgatory, Grandpa? He said, because I go to church every Sunday. That's got to be purgatory. That had to be limbo.
That would be heaven
Yeah.
for me because I love bunny rabbits.
Right?
Yeah, but
The
cleaning it
this-
up.
no,
The
go ahead.
repetition. Yeah.
I
Right.
was going to say the cleaning up the piles.
Yes, but it was the fact that you're getting the and to answer your question here, Jen, this is a man who worked in sand pits, working with dynamite, right?
Oh
At
my
one
gosh.
point. This is a man who's had dangerous jobs, flew planes. We're talking the 2-seater World War One flying ace, the ones that Snoopy used to fly, and
Yeah,
crashed
right there.
twice, right? I mean, he crashed 2 of these planes and lived, right?
Hmm.
This is a tough man. So
Right.
feeding rabbits, cleaning up shit
Greatest
is not a big
generation.
deal, right?
Yeah.
But it was the fact that he was seeing the joy of feeding these rabbits, but then having the again, pardon my language, I shouldn't be swearing like this, but having the shit work of cleaning up shit, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So it's the joy and the pain together,
Yeah. Mhm.
and the fact that it never ended.
Yeah.
Purgatory.
Yeah. You know
Mhm.
what's interesting would be to go back and see if that experience has changed that lady's thoughts on being an atheist. So,
Well, I can tell you this much. I'll tell you this
Okay.
much. She said she didn't say it changed her. She said it's got her thinking.
Yeah.
Because the journey's not done yet. I don't know if
Yeah.
Grandpa's come back yet. It's still it's still an ongoing thing. This only happened a couple weeks ago.
oh, okay.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
really interesting because, if you don't believe in a higher power, yet this guy is coming back and saying, I'm stuck somewhere and I need to move somewhere else. What does it tell you? Because my thought was and I don't know, and correct me if I'm wrong, that atheists just think you died and that's it and you're gone and that's it.
Mhm.
But this is
Right.
clearly showing that there is something else out there after we pass.
Well, you know what else I told her too? Because she's relatively young. And I said, you know what? When we're all younger, when we're all in our 20s, we all have a crisis of faith, right? I mean, we've all gone through it. And I said, I've been where you've been. I've been at a point where I didn't know what I believed. And I said, I grew up a staunch Catholic, but there were times where I would be I questioned my faith so much that I would have anxiety before I'd be laying in bed, and I get to the point where I'd make myself so anxious that I'd wake up with a panic attack because I didn't know if there was anything when I died.
Yeah.
But then I'd say to myself,
that Catholic guilt gets every time.
Well, I don't know if it was Catholic guilt. You know what it was? It was the fact that there were so many things in the world that would tell you there's so many different avenues and so many different roads to go down and so many different choices. Are you sure yours is the right one?
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's doubt. And sometimes you have so much doubt that it screws up what you should believe, what you think you should believe, your actual radar that tells you have an internal radar that tells you what exactly the truth is. You know what the truth is. I can't tell you what your individual truth is. You'll know what it is inside you. I don't need to know what it is. Right? You don't need to tell me what your individual truth is. I don't care what it is. If you worship a rock and you think that's going to take you to the promised land, God love you.
Right.
Worship that rock like there's no tomorrow.
Uh-huh.
Right?
Right.
I don't care. And it's none of my business. Right? But everybody has that internal compass. And as long as you don't mess with somebody's internal compass, let them be. Right?
Yep.
Where I worry is if there's no internal compass.
Yeah.
Because I think no internal compass gets you exactly to where that grandfather is right there. When you lack the internal compass, the soul doesn't know where to go. And it does end up stuck.
Yeah. Without a compass, you don't
think-
have the right direction.
And do you think some souls are stuck here on the earthly plane and that's why we're able to see spirits, or some people can see spirits or ghosts or have these encounters or have these feelings?
I don't know. I think I've changed my mind a little bit on that over the years. I used to think that that was part of the reason. I still think that is part of the reason. I think some people choose to stay here because they're afraid of dogmatic judgment. That's the best way of putting it.
Yep.
You know, like if I step through that light, something's going to happen to me and it's going to be bad. And I don't want to face torment. So being here is better than anything that I'll face over there. So I think that's one part of it. But I think the other part of it, and I kind of think, and I subscribe to this too, is I think those people have already passed over. And I think what they've left behind are just remnants. A lot of that is like an energetic haunting or a residual haunting. I think we see a lot of that too. And sometimes we mistake an active haunting for a residual haunting. We actually think it's active, and it is.
Yeah. Yeah, because on that point too, what you're saying, like, when talking about Catholics and all that, and we were always told, you have to be good 100% of the time, or you're going to hell. You're going to hell. They're going to be judged on the other side. I mean, life reviews, I hear those happen, but you're going to be judged. You're going to be judged, and like you said, some people, especially if they weren't that nice, are super afraid of what is going to happen. I go through that light, like you said, damnation to hell or happiness. We don't know. And being stuck per se, I think is that where they're afraid to go through. I mean, I've talked about like fragmentation and stuff. I feel that maybe the ghost is just a tiny bit of their energy, and being that bit of energy can be the whole body and still be a piece of energy. we just see that as the ghost, and like you said, maybe they're already crossed over, but I think some of their energy is left over here, and that's what we see.
I think a lot of souls too think that judgment is too swift and too harsh. I think they think there's a lot of stuff that they're going to be judged on that if you simply ask for forgiveness, you'll be forgiven. I think the bar is set really, really low as far as forgiveness goes. And I think they think the bar is way up here, and that forgiveness doesn't come that easy. And it's just not true. I think a lot of people don't read enough. That's what I think it is.
They need to listen to podcasts, right?
Yeah, listen to your podcast if you don't.
Look at that reading. Let's podcast.
Yeah. So
I mean, especially if we listen to you, Tim, we get true crime. We get paranormal news and parashare, so people can share their stories and that. So you don't need to read; you just need to listen to Darkness Radio every day, so that you can get your good news and your happenings.
I would suggest you maybe get a few other news other than Darkness Radio. I mean, if you live by a news source, you're probably going to walk around a bumbling idiot. But I mean, other than that, just saying.
So let me just go down a rabbit hole for a second. Have you ever seen a full body apparition? And if you have,
not a full body apparition, no.
Okay.
I'd like to, but I've never seen. No. No. I've seen plenty of shadow people that like to run from me, but I've never seen a full body apparition.
All right, well, come on over. You might see one. I saw one back here. Twice. No, 3 times in this room and once in my bedroom. Interesting.
Well, if that's an invitation, I'll take you up on it. Sure, why not?
You would. This place, just if you ever want to come over and just investigate, it's crazy. I saw in color, and like a regular person standing in the back room 3 times after he passed. But in my bedroom, I saw a full body apparition of my neighbor lady who passed away, but she was more like the milky white shadow, but it was her, but it was a little transparent. You know what I mean? It wasn't like solid, like I'm looking at you. But we talk a lot about like our spirits attracted to certain people because of their belief in other things, the spiritual world. And, you and I and Joe and many, many people, we go to many, many, many conventions, and we're around a lot of people who attract spirits. So, it's kind of a given sometimes that you think maybe something's going to follow you home, or something's going to get attached to your equipment when you're ghost hunting, or have an experience when you're podcasting. Like, have you ever had anything weird happen? I'm sure you have, but we want to hear about it. While you're doing your podcast, and pick up anything interesting.
Yeah. I guess if you want to talk just about while sitting here at the console, I've had a couple of things happen, which they'll never make air. I know a lot of people want to, I mean, you get the EVP that slips through every once in a while, but I think, what's funny is I do have some eagle-eared listeners that listen for EVP, which is funny because I give them all the kudos in the world. But a lot of times, like, I left one in on purpose, knowing it wasn't an EVP. Like the other week, Jessica's daughter came in and said, "Mom, it's time for dinner." I left it in, right?
I remember that.
People would listen, listen and go, "There's an EVP right at this point in Supernatural News." Well, I did get a few people who went, listen to this point in the file, because there's something that whispers to you guys as it's Jessica's daughter calling for dinner. I mean, there are certain points, but then there are other points which I'm absolutely astounded at, where people will say, you know what? There is an actual EVP in the file. And I'll go, oh, come on. Because what'll happen is you guys have to realize that I don't just take and record a guest and then throw it up,
Yep.
I edit for about an hour and a half a night to 2 hours a night on each file. So not only am I cutting out certain things, but then I'm also processing on the file. So there's a lot of background hiss that gets twice filed through. So any background hiss that's in the file should be pretty much filtered out. So if it makes it through 2 filters, boy, it's pretty strong. It made it through for a reason, right?
Yeah.
So if somebody tells me there's something in the file, I'll be like, okay, well, then it must be legit. Because I've pretty much, and again, pardon the language, I've pounded the piss out of the file. There's no way that there should be, right?
Yeah.
So, but I have gotten those. I've gotten EVP in there. Now, one of the things that I talked about before the show to you guys, I'm on Zoom with a certain psychic that's on the show. I don't know if I should name her or not because I don't want to. I don't have her permission to talk about it. But we're talking, let's just say across countries. It's a good way of putting it. So as we're on the line on Zoom and we're recording, now it's easy for me to put my hand up to here and you can see my hand if I go like this. So I can't make a black shadow by doing this across even StreamYard or Zoom, right? It's almost impossible. But as we were sitting and talking, a black shadow goes across, and this isn't the first time it's happened, goes across the screen and blacks out my screen for a good 2 to 3 seconds and then comes back. And I'm looking at it and I say to the person, did you see that? And she says, yeah, I definitely saw that. It also happened when I was talking to my sister on Zoom. During the pandemic. And she was like, what in the actual hell? And it happened for like 5 seconds. She said, what in the actual hell was that? She goes, did you cover up the screen for some reason? I said, no, both my hands are right here. And you can see how far away I am from my camera.
Yeah.
And she goes, well, what was that? Right? Now, with the psychic, she told me, oh, well, she told me that's just your grandmother's way of saying hello and letting you know she's there. And I was like, well, that's a hell of a way of saying hello.
Yeah.
Right.
The other time I was told, now I've told people on the show, and the people that listen to the show know that I do have a spirit that's here in this basement. And you may say, well, in the basement is kind of a weird way of, saying, why wouldn't the spirit be all over the house? Right. But I believe that the spirit that's here in the house, specifically in the basement, is the spirit of the man who originally built the house. Now, the house isn't that old. It's like the late 60s, I believe.
Okay.
And it's kind of an odd story because we rent this house, okay? And we rented from a couple of brothers who bought the house and renovated it. That, first of all, a good way to stir up spirits, right?
Oh yeah, change stuff.
Right. The only thing that's original is a like a workshop that's down at the end of the hall here in this basement, and then of course I made this studio down here. Well, the workshop was his. That's down at the end of the hall. And it turns out that the guy's wife had him sent off to a senior living establishment or an old folks home, right? Because I don't know if he had dementia or what he had, but it got to the point where she couldn't manage him. So she sent him there, and I guess he died of a massive heart attack or something like that. But he always loved the workbench back there. It's like a ceiling to floor workbench.
Okay.
So he loved doing work down here, and he loved working out in the garage. The garage is huge. It's like a 3-car garage. But there's also there's like a living room attached to outside the studio here too. So I've had a few experiences down here. I've been down here recording, and before he and I had a little talk, I've actually had a talk with him in order to settle him down, which I know sounds very, very strange.
Not to us.
I was down here recording one day, and as I'm recording, all of a sudden I hear bass, like extreme bass. Well, over here, I have an entertainment center with a big screen TV, and I have a stereo system and all this just kind of, it's like my, rumpus room where if I want to sit and watch, wrestling or sports or whatever, I've got, my own entertainment center with a recliner, and I even have a small little hospital bed if I want to take naps, in between recording sessions, if I just want to, I've got that,
Man
right?
cave.
Yeah, man cave, right. So, I hear like this bass going on, and I'm like, I didn't turn on the TV or the entertainment center. What the hell's going on, right? So I had to put who I was recording with on pause. And I'm like, is there somebody in the room watching TV? I go in the other room, and Colin Coward is on the TV. Now, Colin Coward, sports talk, right?
Right.
Middle of the afternoon, Colin Coward talking about sports, blah, 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 on Fox Sports Net. And I'm like, what in the actual hell? And I look at the remote, the universal remote is completely blown out. Batteries are gone. And I'm like, all right. So I change out the batteries real quick. I take and I turn everything off, right? I'm like, okay. So I apologize to the guests. We get back to what we're doing. Explain to them some weird stuff's going on. Just bear with me. We'll get back into it. Blah, 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 blah. We get back into the recording. And I'm like, all right, something's really weird here. Now, before that, I've had entire, and it's been like my wrestling posters, like my autograph wrestling posters, lifted up off the wall and thrown a couple of feet and slammed down onto the floor, right? But the nails are still stuck into the wall.
Oh. So he ripped them off the wall with vengeance.
He's ripped them off and boom, right? Just saying, and it's always been whenever I've turned all the lights off in the basement, I have to keep one lamp on.
Okay.
So go figure, a ghost that's afraid of the dark.
Yeah. Like, so can't see what he's.
I don't know what it is, Joe. I don't know.
The ghost of Andre the Giant and Junkyard Dog and Jimmy Superfly Snuka.
I think what it is he wants things his way, Jen. So what I did is finally I sit down with the guy, I figure out what his name is, and I sit down and say, hey, buddy, here's the deal. When I'm down here, and I have time, I'll turn on sports programming for you. Okay, we'll sit here and we'll listen to Colin Coward. We'll turn on ESPN, whatever you want to listen to. I don't care. But when I'm recording, you don't mess with me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I have work to do. This is my work area.
Yeah.
And this is my house now. We can share the space as long as you behave. You start messing with me, we're gonna have issues. It's been quiet ever since.
Oh. Have you had discussions with them since? I mean, do you try to talk to them, or you just let it be?
Sure. Oh, no. I talk to him all the time. I'll hear him walk up and down the hall.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he understood that when you're down there working, he understood that he worked down there on his bench.
Mm-hmm.
And now he knows that you work down there, so he understands, okay, he's working, leave him alone.
Yep.
I mean, that's how I feel.
Yep. And he sees that I work pretty hard down here. So I'm sure there's a respect down there. Oh, you know what? The kid works pretty hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll let him. So.
Interesting.
And see, that just goes to show you too. I mean, we talk to people all the time. They're always like, oh, ghosts are scary. Ghosts are scary. Ghosts are, the demons and all that. It's like, no. Ghosts are whatever you make them out to be. If you make them out to be scary things, they're probably going to be scary.
Yep. Yeah.
If they're nice in life, they're probably nice in death,
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. I mean, I'm sure a lot of it was, hey, you know what? It's my place too. What are you doing in my house? A lot of it was probably, what's this kid doing in my house? And first of all, and second of all, how come you're never turning this TV on? This is a great TV you got. I don't know why you're not watching TV. And I'm
So
sure
you're
there's a lot.
saying I should leave my TV on for the ghosts while I'm not here. You probably love it.
I did it at the Stanley Hotel. I slept like a baby. I was sleeping in the Stephen King suite. Everybody was complaining about problem in the Stephen King suite. I left ESPN on all night. The maid never bothered me. So I don't know why people had a problem in the suite. So
yeah. She heard that
Yeah,
someone was in the room, so she didn't budge in.
there you go.
Yeah.
There's simple issues to simple problems, folks. That's all there is to it.
Mhm.
Can you imagine, when we leave this earthly plane and we go somewhere else? I mean, this generation, all we'll want to do is like, where's our phone? I need an iPhone. What's going on Facebook? Somebody, I'll be looking over somebody's shoulder like, what's going on? Can I see your Instagram?
Jen, seriously,
we're going to be the most annoying ghost ever.
I think that's the next level of haunting will be your devices. I think as spirits, we'll find a way to infiltrate it. As it is right now, the shielding is pretty good, but you have hackers that find a way into your shielding. I think as spirits will find a way into your shielding, and that'll be the next way to infiltrate your electronics.
Yeah.
It'll be 20 years from now, and all of a sudden your phone will pop up with stuff from now, and you'll be like, it's from the past.
Think of it.
2024.
If you could be a ghost and figure out a way to change yourself into a virus or a program and get into somebody's phone and get attention that way, wouldn't that be the ultimate haunting?
Hey, we say they're made of energy.
Plot for a screenplay. We need to write that.
I'm just saying.
Phone. Killer phone. Well, they're killing us anyways. We're all
I'd just be on
zombies.
Amazon ordering stuff for everybody, and they don't know it, and then all of a sudden, all this stuff shows up on their doorstep. I love this ghost hunting equipment and shoes landing on my doorstep. I'm over there with my ghost phone.
They're just showing up on somebody's TikTok as a video over and over again, and you just show up and you're waving at somebody, and giving messages.
Yeah. Could happen.
Yeah, you never know.
Hey, like I said, we know that they're made of energy, so they can do it.
Yeah.
I mean, weird stuff has happened to us while we recorded. I mean, we had Ave Maria just start playing out of nowhere. When we did the Greenbrier Ghosts, we had a woman scream, and I tracked it back that it was the woman's scream was only on my track, was on Jen's track, and it's clear as day. It's like, you do this long enough and stuff is going to happen. And like you were saying, I edit all the shows too, and I do delete a lot of noise that I think is just noise. And it's like sometimes I've listened to it a couple of times and like, no, because the more you listen to it, the more you're in your mind, you're like, okay, what did it say? What did it say? But yeah, especially when you mentioned earlier, when we go to conventions, we do record live at the conventions. And how I get the noise level down is the guest mic I don't mess with. But when the guest is talking, or me or Jen are talking, I silence the other track, so it knocks down that background noise. And even then, we've had people say, we've heard stuff, but at the conventions, it's hard because you've got 100 people in front of you. So if it's an EVP, it's probably them talking. But yeah, this is fun. We do stuff. We have stuff happen to us all the time when I record. It's weird.
I was down here in the studio. I was talking to my daughter Kylie on the phone, and just telling her I love her, blah 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 blah. And by the way, hi Kylie. Daddy loves you. And I was saying something, and I have one of those full screened ALEXA. I can't say it because it'll go off in front of me here.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden a song came up, and it wasn't just an I love you daddy song, a cute one. It was a creepy one. I mean, just like a creepy one from the 20s, like the 1920s or
Oh,
1910s.
yeah.
And it was like and it was like a mocking tone. And I didn't know if it was in the other room or if it was just, I don't know. It was bizarre, but it was almost like, and I was like, whoa. So I messaged Kylie. I'm like, something weird is going on. You got to hear
Yeah.
it. And I videoed it and sent it to her. And she was like, that's bizarre. Yeah. So no, I know
I
what you're
have to
talking
meet a couple days ago or a week ago or so. I was at church with Mom, and she's in the choir, so I'm sitting in one of the pews by myself, and the priest is up there talking, and all of a sudden my phone goes, "Sorry, I didn't understand that." I'm like, "Crap, turn the phone." They're listening. They're always listening. But yeah,
How do you feel, Tim, personally? Like, how do you feel about the ghost apps on the phones? About people using those apps? Like, what's your take on it?
I'm pretty darn skeptical about a lot of them, if not most of them.
yeah,
The only one I really only ever use, and I have it on my iPad, is Bill Chappell's Ovilus program, the really old one. And I only have it on there as a trial version. And I used it because Bill had me try it a long time ago, quite a long time ago. And even then, it's not real reliable. It's almost like a party favor. Even he said when he downloaded, he goes, yeah, it's not as reliable as the actual, as the actual Ovilus, the actual hardwired Ovilus. But give it a try and see what you think of it. So I was like, okay. So I downloaded it and played around with it. In fact, I just used it at the Palmer House. When was that? Was that this past spring? And I was surprised at how incredibly hit and miss it was. I mean, you might get a few words that sound like they could be related to something, and then a few words that were completely off. Like, I don't know why in the basement it would ask for a sandwich, things like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, the apps I don't put much stock in, if anything.
Yeah, I don't. I always think
they're
because
so
they're designed to work.
sophisticated now. Yeah.
They are, but here's the deal, Jen, and that's this. Because and again, I go back to this, and I always go back to this. The shielding in your phone is 10 times, 20 times, 100 times better than anything in the RRDR60, which is that cheap Panasonic recorder that everybody claims that is the holy grail of recorders, right? So, and that's supposed to be the thing that lets every spirit and their mother in to talk to you. So if that thing is as sensitive as can be, and your cell phone is built to keep everything out and record everything with no hiss, no anything, and keep everything pristine. If you're recording anything to that device, well, if it's keeping everything from coming in, it's going to keep everything from going out, and it's going to keep any EMF out and any RF out, especially when you're making phone calls. If it's supposed to keep your phone calls crystal clear, well, then why is a ghost getting through to it? And why is a ghost communicating through an app? I don't buy it. I just don't. I think the technology is solid and the casing is solid. If you're not getting brain cancer from putting it up to your ear, then how is the ghost getting through it to talk to you? If ghosts are energy, and again, energy isn't getting through it, it isn't getting past it in order to get to your brain. Ghosts aren't getting through it to talk to you. Physically, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Do you have any particular piece of equipment that you like to use that is just like your go-to?
I've always been a sound guy, so I love playing with sound in any respect. I'm really intrigued by the Estes method. I truly am. I'm truly intrigued by people who do it, and it's in recent years, as I get older, I tend to want to see what people's individual abilities are. I tend to soften a little bit on the skeptic side of things. Everybody's a skeptic. Everybody wants to crap all over everybody. I tend to want to see what people come up with and how you can line it up with actual facts. You know, can you actually pull something out of the ether and can you line it up against historical fact? And if you can, I'm darn impressed, you know. Let's see what you got. Give it a shot, you know. And there's some people who have done stuff with the Estes method that are just incredible. So why not give it a shot? You know?
Yeah.
We like it. We love it. I think it's great. And you know, Joe has a friend who was doing it with a whiteboard. So to see if the spirits could just see instead of you know, asking questions out to see, like, that's, you know, like if they can
see,
read
that's intriguing.
that's a whole other level. Yeah. Write the questions on the whiteboard and then see what somebody gets in their earbuds.
It's Miranda Young, the ghost biker. She actually did a whole investigation where she didn't say a word. She just used the whiteboard and wrote on it and did an investigation that way. And she got results.
Wow.
You know, so that once again, that's another thing. You know, we don't understand how they hear us. We don't understand if they see us, but yet things like that tell us a little bit that, okay, they can see us, you know, in some way. We still don't know if we look like light beings to them or if we look physical or whatever. We don't know.
Yeah.
But that's so intriguing when she did that. I've never heard anything like that before. And it's like, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
And
I've done the Estes method. I tried to release a video that I did. And ever since I did this video, I've had nothing but problems with it. And it was called The Warehouse. We were up in downtown Toledo. There's a spaghetti warehouse. We were there on the 3rd floor, and we got the best Estes method I've ever done in my life. Hundreds of EVPs on the 3 pieces of equipment we use in the camera, my Zoom recorder that I'm using now, and the Harold's recorder that he had. We got hundreds of EVPs inside my head and out in the room. And I can't post it because it keeps acting up. But yeah, I love the Estes method because it's so personal too.
Yeah.
You know, you're focused. And when I'm under, especially at the spaghetti warehouse, you know, after a while you stop hearing the radio chatter, I heard conversations in the background. You know, you can hear conversations, you can hear stuff. It's amazing. And if anybody out there that's listening to this has never done it, try it. It's super cool.
See, I've never actually tried it. I've never done it. I love observing it. No, I've never tried it. Never tried it. What's that, Jen?
We're gonna do it. We'll do it.
Yeah.
Michigan Paracon.
When we're at Michigan Paracon, we're going to take you into the haunted hallway and we're going to do it.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. I'd like to try it. I've never tried it. I don't know what kind of. I tend to be a cooler, so I don't know what you're gonna get, but it's worth a shot. I'm up for anything. I'm up for anything. So, but I've never tried it, but I'm intrigued by people who do it. I'm really, really intrigued by people who do it. I love to watch it. I love to watch people who do it results. So that's where I go. What's that?
What?
Go ahead, Joe.
Go ahead.
I was going to ask.
I was going to say, you know,
we do this all the time. We talk over each other.
I was going to say, you could actually do the Estes method without the headphones and all that, just by being in a different room and asking questions and hearing what that person says in the other room too. That's a form of it. But yeah,
I don't know.
EVPs are great.
I kind of like the idea of doing it the traditional way, just complete sensory deprivation and and seeing, because you really truly have to go within yourself and trust yourself and trust what it is you're getting, and then putting it out there. I mean,
just saying whatever you hear, you just blurt out.
That's the thing too. I mean, you know, when I do, I've been doing for years. I've been doing this EVP or not lecture, and there used to be a thing I did, and I did it once at the Stanley. I did a thing where I would put an EVP out on a speaker, and I would show people how fallible your ears really are. So I would take an EVP that I know I've listened to, and I know what it says, and I would put it on a speaker system just to show you how bad some speakers are and how sound waves travel. And I would ask the audience, and it's kind of a dodgy one. So it'd be like a B or C quality. And I'd say, okay, what this side of the room, what do you think it says? This side of the room, what do you think it says? And you get two different answers, sometimes three different answers, sometimes four different answers. Then what I do is I'll narrow it down. I'll say, okay, it says either this or this. Go. What do you think it says? Yeah. Well, then there's, if I get four different answers, then there's people go, well, I didn't hear that. And then when you force them to choose one answer or another, well, then you're shaping opinions. Yeah. And then it's not necessarily what did I hear? Now it's, and I always contend with paranormal programming, when they put the words on the screen of what an EVP is, you've already shaped what it is. You've already shaped thinking. You're not allowing for true interpretation, right? So now you're shaping the thinking of the audience, and you're fitting them in that box, and you're dragging them along the narrative of the story, and you're creating the story from start to finish. You're not really getting a true, you're not letting the audience have their interpretation of the way things should be, right? And it is truly, it's not a roller coaster ride. It's a small walk through the park, and you're leading them on a leash is what it is what these programmers are doing. And so it's kind of sad. So the end result of what this lecture basically is I'm now going to pigeonhole you between these two choices. So now I get these two sides fighting over what it truly says. And then eventually time. Now I'm going to tell you what it says. Yeah. Well, how do you know? How do you know for sure? And then I get people arguing with me. How do you know for sure what it says?
Yeah.
How do I know for sure what it says? Because I've got the source material from the actual people who recorded the EVP, and they know what it says because it's a fake EVP. They created it. That's how I know what it says. This isn't even a real EVP. So that's how I know what it says.
But yeah, people are so suggestive in the way, and I'm guilty of that too. And like the video I tried to put out, I put what I think it said on the video, and afterwards I'm like, why did I do that? But a lot of people do, and we've even said when people hear things audibly at a investigation, somebody will hear something, and a person standing right next to them will say, "I heard that too," and they said this, and they're like, "No, they said this." So how do we know what is actually true? I guess we just have to go with what we feel.
But see, that's the thing. Okay, so you talk about interpretation, and you're, again, this is why and Jen, you were talking about ghost apps. So you talk about how a ghost app actually interprets what it is that is being fed to it. So if it takes environmental factors and it takes what's being fed to it, and let's say it comes up with dish, okay, as what's being fed to it. Who's to say that everything's being fed to those sensors is actually the word dish? Maybe the ghost is saying shit, and dish is the only thing that it can say, right? Who's to say that even the app is coming up with the correct interpretation of what it is when the ghost is trying to feed it a certain word?
What if the ghost has an accent, and then like when you talk and text into your phone and you're trying to text and it's putting the wrong words in there because it's not recognizing your accent? And that happens to me all the time. I'm like, I'm from Ohio, I don't have an accent. And everybody's like, yeah, you do. Like,
yeah. I mean, how many times as you're driving and you're trying to do speech to text, it doesn't pick up what it is you're trying to say? Who's to say that any of these ghost apps doesn't work?
Embarrassing, like the wrong word goes in there. Like instead of daffodil, I'll put something else.
yeah, exactly. Right.
They'll be like, what do you want, Jen? What the heck are you trying to say? Jen, I didn't know you were into that.
Rabbit hole. This is going way far now. I shouldn't have I opened the door. Sorry, but no, that's just Joe and I are old school in our methods for ghost hunting. We we ghost hunt. We're not paranormal investigators. We don't, take on cases for people. We just like to go and do it and enjoy it. We like dowsing rods. We like the simple things, like,
Mhm.
you know,
Your own feelings.
yeah, definitely. What's my body feeling, like,
Mhm.
am I getting a cold chill? Is my natural reaction, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's how
I'm I'm
because
I'm good
we're
with
not out to prove anything, you know.
yeah.
We just
Yeah.
want to experience it.
I'm good with a pad of paper, a recorder, and a camera. And there's actually something that my guest on this week's show, on Thursday's show, has come up with, and it's actually a book. And I'm not going to do it service, but it's a book that he sells for $20 that allows you to document your investigation from beginning to end in a scientific manner. So, so it actually, and I'm going to have to bring up his name because otherwise I've done one of those things where I can't actually remember his name again. But he's actually brilliantly allowed you to scientifically do your investigation from start to finish,
Mhm.
and maps it out in a DIY way where you don't even have to think about it. You, from start to finish, it's all mapped out for you. You can instead of just collecting data, which is essentially what we're doing when we're going into an investigation anyways. When you take a picture, it's just data. It's not evidence, at least not yet, until you map it accordingly. But collecting your data and then turning it into evidence. And then of course I forgot, I don't have it up yet. But he, Christopher Jordan, that's his name, Christopher Jordan.
Okay.
But he's come up with this amazing, it's a lab book essentially, which allows you to log any experience. So if you have an experience with Sasquatch, if you're out squatching, if you're out seeking UFO and you want to log that, or if you're on a ghost investigation, so you're able to log all three, and you can do that in this book. So
if you had your choice, that's why this is a personal question. If you had your choice between seeing a
Halle Berry
full body apparition,
Yeah.
or a full body apparition, or seeing Bigfoot, which would you choose to see and why?
Bigfoot. Simply because I feel like that would be the harder of the two to see.
Right.
Yeah. And the other thing too is yeah, the harder of the two, but because I feel like Bigfoot, you're kind of swinging for the fences for, it could be one of either two things. Either one, if you're an aper, you think Bigfoot is probably one of those things out in the wild that's pretty hard to catch, or two, that thing's coming through a portal and is probably attached to a UFO somewhere, and it probably, you're dealing with an interdimensional creature, right? Which is probably pretty hard to get a hold of anyways. So you're dealing with a twofer type combo deal. So yeah, I'm going for Bigfoot because it seems like a ordinary garden variety ghost would be pretty easy to get a hold of rather than Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have or let me phrase it, like, do you believe in the other types of elementals, as far as like fairies or gnomes, or those kind of, what do you want to call them? I guess it just elementals.
Yeah, elementals. I used to laugh at them until I got a talking to from Rosemary Ellen Guiley, and that was years ago. I used to, because I think it was, when was it? It was probably 2008. I was like, "Come on, Ro, fairies," and I kind of giggled, and she was like, "Sit down," and then I was like, "Okay." And then she proceeded to talk to me for half an hour about why fairies are real, and I was like, "Oh, okay." And then I got a little bit of respect for it, even though I thought, I don't know that I still believe in it. She goes, you don't necessarily have to believe in it to believe that people believe they're real. And
Mhm.
if you believe something's real, it gives it power.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I mean, there are more people that believe fairies are real in the world that believe that Bigfoot are real.
Yeah.
That means something.
Mhm.
Yeah. Have you
So-
ever been overseas to the like Emerald Isles or Great
Never have.
Britain?
I want to. The first place I'd probably go is France because it's one of the land of my people, and I'd actually love to.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd love to check out my Templar heritage. But
Yeah.
yeah.
So you look back into your lineage that there is Templar.
Oh, there definitely is. My 18th great grandfather was the
I didn't know
fourth
he was a
master of the Knights Templar. So
Hmm.
Interesting.
yeah, so it's
Oh,
definitely something I want to research. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Not
Yeah.
everybody can say that. But
No.
that's
No,
incredible.
well, actually, you know what? There are more people out there that can say that than you know.
Oh, really?
I've
Maybe they just don't know.
I've met a few of my cousins. Yeah, that I didn't know I had. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
Tim, this has been awesome.
Our
Unfortunately,
time's
we've come to the end of the hour. We could sit and talk for 20 hours, but we're going to catch up with you at Michigan Paracon.
Most definitely. It's gonna be a good time.
excited.
Okay, we'll just sit
It
there and go,
always
Tim,
is, right?
Tim,
Like a
Tim,
like a little
Tim,
family
Tim.
reunion. But no,
But-
we really, really appreciate you coming on the show. Finally, after 9 years, we got you on the show.
Well, I appreciate it. And for people to check me out, please, darknessradioshow.com is the easiest way to check everything out. True Crime Tuesdays on Tuesday, Supernatural News on Wednesday, along with Parashare. And on Thursday, we feature an interview from a different paranormal guest of the week. So again, to check out where you can either subscribe to the show or for any of the archives, it's darknessradioshow.com.
Awesome.
And we'll put that all in the show notes for our listeners so they
Oh,
can
yeah.
click
Thank you.
on and go to your stuff. But no, appreciate it. Blessings to you, and we wish you all the greatest success in future.
Thank you so
and
much.
see
And
soon.
blessings to you as well.
All right. Thank you so much. And thank you, listener, for tuning in this week. Once again, like I always say, please, please, please hit that subscribe button. If you feel so inclined, share the show with your friends. Even if you share with some stranger on the street, just yell at them and say, hey, turn on the 222 Paranormal Podcast right now. And also, like we said during the show, please check out Tim's show. I personally have been listening to it for years and years, and Tim's not that old, so he's been doing it since he was like 12 years old. But but no, tune into his show. The link is in the show notes. Anything else you want to say, Jen?
Just everybody have a great week, and please, share this show because Tim's amazing. We appreciate
All
him.
right. All right. We will talk to you next week with another amazing show. Thank you for tuning in, and goodbye, everyone. All right.